Hi, welcome into my studio, and on this video I'm going to be doing a medium that I haven't done a lot of with you guys, and it's graphite. But I like to keep the mediums changing fairly frequently, so I don't always want to stick with alkyds or pastels, coloured pencils. I like to keep, trying different things. And on this video I'm going to be drawing a rhino for you, and it's going to be quite detailed. It took me about 3.5 hours, which I know is not long really with graphite detailed work, and especially because it's quite large as well, but I've got a few tips and tricks to show you that really cut down on the time, so I hope you enjoy those. But I wanted to also try out some new materials, so I'm killing two birds with one stone, and I'm able to bring to you some art product reviews at the same time then, so we can see how these materials are actually panning out and if they're any good. So the paper I'm using is this one. Everything's by Derwent today basically, and this one's called watercolor paper, but it's superior smooth surface. And I don't know if this is a brand new paper out or not. They sent it to me just to try out, and when I felt the surface, it really is super smooth, very similar to Bristol board paper. So I thought it'd be really good to use with this Rhino because there's lots of smooth textures on there, and then there's also lots of wrinkles as well, so there's a good variety on there. So that's the paper I'm going to be using. It's really thick as well. It is 300 GSM, 140 pounds, so that's a nice thick paper to use. The thing that's going to speed up the drawing process dramatically is this. It's some Graphite Blocks. If I open them up and show you, so they're a real large block of graphite, and they're in various colours at the top, but the one I'm interested in really is the very soft that's in the normal graphite colour there. The one at the bottom is number 06, but I'm going to use that with a technique to kind of get a base drawing in really quickly. The main pencils I'm using are the brand new Derwent graphic range, and they have only just come out, and I've been told that they are superior. I'm going to get a smoother pencil, and they're going to perform that much better. Now, I normally use Derwent graphic range anyway, and I have done for years and years. I've tried some others like the Faber-Castell, and the top make are all pretty good. They're all really good, in fact. So I haven't really got much to lose with trying these Derwent. I'm pretty sure they're going to be excellent, as they have been. So if it's an improvement on the ones that I already love, that's going to be superb. The range is 9B to 9H, and that's a really big range, really big. Now, I wouldn't normally be using things like a 9H. It's too hard for the techniques and the styles I prefer. But what Derwent have done, they brought out the range in, I think it's 3 smaller box sets. So you've got the lower end of the range, so we're going from the 9H up to the B, and then I know they've got like a mid-range in there, and then they've got a softer range going right up to the 9B or something like that on it. So there's a good range there, so you haven't got to go and buy, a really big set of 24 pencils, and I'll only be using probably 3 or 4 pencils there. And the other critical thing I've got for this demonstration is this little eraser. Now, I've done eraser reviews before. They're on my YouTube channel. I've gone really in depth in it, and one that I loved, and it's changed my graphite work really, is the Mono Zero, and it's a very, very tiny end actually on there. So what I'll be using that more as a subtractive way of drawing, because we won't be using a white pencil obviously. I need to get my highlights back with the method that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using that eraser to do it. So without further ado, let's get cracking and have a look at it. Okay, so this is a reference photo of the baby rhino that I've already converted to grayscale that I'll be working from. Now, this video is sped up really fast. Over on my Patreon channel, I've got a video that's slowed right down of this. It's around about 2 hours long, so if you prefer to have a much slower version where I can really go into details about what I'm doing and the materials I'm using and the techniques, go over to my Patreon channel. So that's patreon.com/wildlifeart. I've transferred my drawing over to my paper, and what I'm doing now is using the Derwent XL blocks and a makeup sponge to actually block that in, and this saves me, well, I think hours and hours of actual light shading with perhaps a 2H or a B pencil. So this really gets the shape and the form of the Rhino down very, very quickly. I also indented the paper for the highlight grass areas too. Now I'm using the Derwent graphic range pencils, and I generally find a range for me that's good is from about 2H all the way up to about 5 or 6B, and this graphic range, as I showed earlier on, has got a really large range. I'm also using mono zero erasers, and that helps to pick out the highlights, so that's a really good tip for you, and that allows me to kind of bring out those highlight areas. So rather than the real long process of reserving whites, I can bring that out, starting to block in some of the details, the crinkles and the indentations as well, before blocking in some darker areas. And when I'm blocking in darks, I don't just go straight in with the darks, I like to build them up with the pencils. And something you also got to remember is with graphite, it reflects light, so the printout on the left that I'm working from is always going to look different, because that, as a print, the way it is done with inkjet, it's not reflecting light, whereas graphite will, so it's always going to look a bit different, and it's going to look different than I'm actually seeing it in real life as well. To get a realistic effect, I haven't got to put every little crease and wrinkle in, only the ones in the main areas. And the areas that are usually darkest where those folds of skin turn in the light. So, you know, be wary on the reference photos to look for those. And like a lot of graphite artists, I like to kind of work my way around the drawing rather than just perfect and finish one small area. So I like to get a whole feel of the drawing before I come back in with the real details. Here I'm building up the dark area of the leg, once again working with from light to dark pencils before I start refining the rib area. And every now and again you'll see that I'm using a black pencil, or black eraser, sorry, and that's called a tough stuff eraser, and that's just like the mono zero but that little bit larger. Here I'm adding some of those details and wrinkles to give a really realistic effect, and you've got to remember, unless you're watching this on something like a phone, it's massively enlarged. So when it goes back to life size, these details start to look very realistic. Now I'm using that graphite dust or powder that I made again, and you can see where those little indentations in the grass have really given effect of the high lit areas of grass. And now I can start to go back in with the graphite pencils and really detail those grasses. Now that the whole of the drawing has been covered, I'm going over it and really punching up those darks and also the highlights as well, and that's really given much more of a three-dimensional and much more contrasty appearance. So remember, if you like the slowed down 2-hour version over on my Patreon channel, from just $4 a month you get a new video, and you also get loads of reference photos as well and access to the older videos too. If you're looking for more art resources, I really think I've got you covered. I've got a brand new Patreon channel, and on there every month I bring out exclusive full-length videos for you, and also exclusive reference photos with line art. I've got a dedicated website for tutorials, that's jasonmorgan.co.uk. Lots of full-length videos, some of them up to 8 hours long on there, and there's also ebook tutorials as well if you'd like to read rather than see the videos. I've got a dedicated reference photo website, wildlifeart-online.com. There's over 900 images on there, all for you to use copyright free, and they all come with the Easy Trace line art as well. And don't forget, my YouTube channel is growing all the time. If you can possibly subscribe, then you know you're guaranteed not to miss out on any new videos and updates. See you all again real soon.